Hey everyone, it's Chris and Sheree Gio of Beyond the Veil and Truth Frequency Radio. We decided to do a new video series and we're going to try to update it at least once a week, if not more. But we'll be talking to you about some of the ideas that we usually kick around between us after ceremony or after smoking DMT. But we want to share all of these insights, these DMT insights from Beyond the Veil. Now, I've gone through a pretty interesting journey over the last couple of years. I've been given a lot of information. I started talking about a lot of it. I held back some because it seemed like people weren't quite up to where the level of understanding that I was at. And so I wanted to bring it back so I can kind of help guide people into the direction of enlightenment. A year later, 2 years later, we're hearing a lot of other people talking about the exact same ideas, and it's wonderful. And part of the journey that I've been on recently as well is cutting the ties to holding myself back. You know, I have a lot of insight to share. Cherie has a lot of insight to share, but we don't want to sound like we're way off out in the deep end. However, fuck it. That's basically what I was told was fuck it, cut the ties and fly. You're a soaring eagle, you need to fly. So that's what this whole series is all about too, kind of helping us to let go and really just spread our wings and just really shine our light out there. So we were going through Facebook as we were talking, and Dan Bidondi from InfoWars posted a very interesting question. And he said, social experiment. Is this a globe? Is it flat? Is it a dome? What do you think Earth is? And there were all these different answers. People thinking that they're globes, people saying that it's a globe, people saying that it's flat. Of course, anybody who has been on the internet lately, especially over the last couple of years, has realized there's a huge flat versus globe Earth debate. And it's all bullshit, all of it. And I don't mean that the research is bullshit, because people who are researching the flat earth stuff, in my opinion, are doing a tremendous amount of work. Right. But it's bullshit in the sense that this whole fucking construct is fake. It's an artificial simulation. So a hologram, the way it works, and this is what I replied, a hologram works by projecting a 3D image on a two-dimensional surface. So now this whole flat versus globe debate, now it's a matter of what part of the illusion are you looking at? Are you looking at the globe, at the three-dimensional hologram? And is that what is real to you? Or are you looking at the flat surface and thinking that that's real in and of itself too? They're both equally right, both equally wrong, but they serve to integrate you further into the idea that this reality is real. It's just, in my opinion, those who are able to see the flat plane instead of and beyond the three-dimensional hologram, they're able to see a little bit deeper and a little bit beyond the illusion. But there is still a lot of illusion that's left, and that's what we have to go beyond the veil of and remove all of that so we can understand what reality is all about.
Definitely. It seems like this reality is made of different layers of truth and different layers of reality, quote unquote reality. And quantum physicists are just now, after, maybe the last 20 or 30 years, they're just now getting into things like, well, apparently this is what they admit to. They admit to being able to simulate a single hydrogen molecule, and that's all they'll admit to. But at the same time, you've got top physicists, top scientists, top computer programmers saying this reality seems like a simulation, and I really believe it is. Who was it that
there was a physicist, and I need to commit his name to memory because I talk about him all the time on the show and things like that. But he said that he opened up the fabric of reality, calculated all that. I don't know exactly. I'm not a physicist, so I don't know the process. But he basically found that the fabric of reality has a computer code embedded within it. It's a self-correcting computer code. And it's not just any computer code. It's a computer code that was written by a guy in the 40s named Claude Shannon. Can you turn that off?
Yes.
Okay. So there was a computer code written by a guy named Claude Shannon. And computer code, if you've ever written it, they found this specific type of computer code in the fabric of reality. Now, if it was, like the word hello, for instance, then you can say, oh, well, somebody's just making that up in their mind and they're just seeing something and they're just seeing letters in there. They're just seeing hello. But when you have a complex computer code embedded in the fabric of reality, well, then what the hell does that mean for us? And how did a computer code from the 40s get into our reality? Either one of two things happened. Either this Claude Shannon guy was so tapped into the very essence and fabric of reality that he was able to pull out every single line of code and create a computer code based on channeling this information from what reality is all made of, or we're in a simulation that is based upon Claude Shannon's code. You tell me, let us know in the comments below what you think is more probable. Did this guy channel a very complex computer code from the fabric of reality, or are we living inside of a computer program that was created based on his code?
That's a really good question. It also brings to mind Tesla and some of his experiments. It's almost as if he was leaving little breadcrumbs as to what this reality is actually made of, because I think he found the answer. And I think a lot of it has to do with time travel as well. And just the fact that reality is so subjective and so non-objective that one person's reality is vastly different from another's. And people are asking the question, from things like the double slit experiment and things like that, okay, well, wait a second, what actually is making up reality? And is everybody's brain and body just kind of making it up as it goes along? Or because of experiments that they've done showing that the brain can know what's about to happen at least 10 seconds before. What was it? 10 seconds before?
5 to 10 seconds.
5 to 10 seconds before it even happens.
Right. Let's elaborate on that here for a moment. So essentially what happens is when you're about to enter into some kind of trauma or something's about to happen to you, your subconscious mind picks up on this 5 to 10 seconds before and reacts before the event actually happens. How does that happen?
I think that this is all running on a program, on a very elaborate computer program, and that things are happening in sequences. It's not time, it's sequencing.
Yes, I agree. And it was difficult for me to wrap my head around this concept that time doesn't exist, because I always thought to myself, well, there's always going to be some kind of measurement of time, be it in the universe, theoretical universe that they tell us, where you have the rotation of a planet, that is time. You have the rotation of a galaxy, you have the rotation of whatever. There's always going to be some kind of movement to dictate time.
Right.
However, when I started thinking about it in the sense of sequences, as you said, now all of a sudden it makes sense. Things don't happen at a certain time. Like, it doesn't happen at 1 p.m. It happens after another event happens.
Right. Exactly.
And that's how computer code works, unless you specifically program in there, do this at a particular time. Right. And you can't even say do this at a particular time in a program. Usually what you do in a computer program when you're writing it is you create something to run that script at a particular time. But within the script itself, what you do is you can say wait 5 seconds and then continue. But that sequence, it's still sequential, one after another. It's all based on sequence.
Wow. And what about, just the fact that they did those experiments where the people saw things, 10 seconds before, and what was it?
And reacted to it. They showed them pictures, and they reacted to the pictures 5 to 10 seconds prior to them seeing the pictures.
Now we're getting into things called the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records was believed in by all the ancient Egyptians. They all believed in something called the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records were basically a record of everything that had ever happened in the universe. And every time you make a decision or every time you do something, whether it's good or bad or ugly or beautiful, it all gets put into this Akashic record. What if we've we're running on a program that already has everything that we're going to do or have done already laid out. And we're just following a sequence of events without, and when we make decisions, we think it's us making the decision, but really it's the universal
Well,
procession.
see, this is where it gets really interesting because Cherie, as I've said before, is a very, very talented astrologer. And the stars really are very powerful and they have a very, very heavy influence.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself being a slave to the stars more often than not. However, through understanding that I'm a slave to the stars, and by Cherie doing my transit charts, then I'm able to overcome certain obstacles and change that outcome.
Right.
Based on just the prior knowledge that something's going to happen. And it's usually like I'll go to a meeting and it's going to be a heated meeting, for example. And knowing that it's going to be a heated meeting and knowing that I'm more likely on this particular day to act out of ego or act aggressively or act hastily and not think before I say something, then I can go into the meeting and say, okay, well, I'm going to handle this. And I'm going to be extra nice. I'm going to smile a lot. And I'm going to say very few words. And I'm going to be very careful with my words. Then I can change the outcome of that meeting. But without that prior understanding, I find that Cherie will bring me my transit charts after something happens. And she already has them pre-written from the day before. I just didn't take the time to read them. And a lot of things that I was experiencing during that day are actually in the transits from the day before. So the idea that everything is in a database, I agree with, but with a computer program, you can write, well, okay, taking a few steps back, a computer program, you have your database where you have all of your information. And on a web page, it displays whatever the programmer tells it to pull out of the database at that particular time. For instance, you're on YouTube right now watching this one particular video. All these other videos still exist within the database that YouTube is pulling from, but you're only seeing this particular video on your screen right now because that's what the programmer has programmed for you to see. However, you can also have user inputted information that also writes to that database. So while the Akashic records in the database of reality is already filled up with everything possible, there's still user commands that we can write in and change our reality. Does that make sense?
And even if we can't change this, like the source code that's, running the whole thing, we can change at least our reality and the reality of the lives of the people that we touch.
Yes. The way that I liken it is like a video game. So you move your avatar into a room. You have complete control over your avatar. You can go left, you can go right, you can jump up, you can go on the block, you can move the block, you can kill the enemy, you can not kill the enemy, you can go around him. You've got seemingly an infinite amount of moves that you can make. It's really not infinite though. It's really finite because you can only do a certain thing within the actual construct itself, but you're free to move around however you want. But at times you can actually hack the matrix. That's what I want to get into, is like hacking the matrix here in a moment. But that's a little bit, I'm getting ahead of myself. So you can move your avatar freely. But once you get to that door, then that next room is still going to be the next room in the video game because that's what's been programmed by the programmer. Right. So you have free will in the sense that you can move your avatar around, but you're still stuck inside of that construct. Now, here's another interesting thing. And again, video game references and computer programming. So when you get to a door in a video game, especially in the older games, like on PlayStation 2, a lot of times it would say loading because what it was doing is loading that next room. Now our computers have gotten so quick that you can go from room to room and it seems seamless, but it's not until your avatar gets to a certain point that that next room starts to load. That's the way that they're realizing reality actually works too, that the rest of reality doesn't actually form until somebody goes and observes it. And that's the double slit experiment and a couple of other theoretical experiments that I think are quite valid.
Right. Wasn't it that they would do this double slit experiment and they'd push light through this hole and it would come out the other side and as like a shadow. And when no one was observing it, there was scattering. It was scattering all over the place. And then it wasn't until they were observing it that it went through one place.
Right.
Wow.
So
Infinite possibilities all the time.
Subatomic particles act however they want when they're not observed. And they don't form into one solid mass until it is observed. So that's ultimately the way reality works as well.
Well, tell us how to hack the Matrix.
Oh, I don't know how to hack the Matrix.
You don't know how to hack the Matrix.
I'm still working on it. But the point is, the reason that I wanted to bring up hacking the Matrix is because now all of a sudden we can start hacking the Matrix in the sense that we can start changing reality. And there are some Buddhist monks and people who have studied to levitate, people who have studied to move things with their minds. These things are very, very possible if we, first of all, let go of our belief of the Matrix. And the belief that this reality is real is very, very, very strong. And the closer you get to breaking yourself out of it, the more the Matrix will try to pull you back in with several different methods. You may have money problems, or you may become very successful at whatever you're doing. And then all of a sudden you're becoming more and more successful in your business or in your ventures or whatever it is that you aspire to do. And then you're like, hey, I love this reality. Yes, this is real. This is real.
It's real.
Right. So it tricks you in several different ways. You can still become very successful and still understand that this is a matrix and still break yourself out. You can do both. These are the challenges that a lot of us right now are trying to break through. How do we continue to move forward, take on all of the obstacles? That's not quite the right word that I'm looking for, though.
Challenges?
Not challenges, but all of the temptations of the Matrix to pull you back in and say, hey, this is real. Look, it's real. Trust me. Look, your electric bill's coming up at the end of the month. That's very real. Your lights are going to be turned off. If you don't,
car just broke down.
Right. Go plug yourself back in. Go do all that. Focus. And that's what's important.
How are you going to survive in this Matrix?
Right. Or the other way, you get a promotion at work and it's like, hey, now I'm the manager of so-and-so or whatever. And you're like, hey, this is great. I got a great life. No, this is wonderful.
It has to be real.
Right. But my point is, though, that we can figure out ways to hack the Matrix. And that's the next step, in my opinion, after realizing all of this. And you start hacking it. And then you make things happen. And people call it the law of attraction. There's people that speak on these subjects. There's a self-help guy named Tim Ferriss. And this guy was just recently on a podcast with Jamie Foxx. He took some ayahuasca and he came up with a revelation completely independent from us. It's funny that we're all channeling the same thing, but he came up with a revelation that we're all living inside of a computer program.
What do you know?
What do you know? Right. The ayahuasca seems to be telling people, hey, you're living inside of a computer program. You're living inside of a computer program. And so he's a self-help guy. So he's somebody that we need to get on the show first and foremost. Yeah. But second of all, he's getting these messages. So I think considering that he has been in the self-help and he is all about law of attraction, he's about changing the way you think, changing what's inside of you in order to attract better things to you, be it some of them may be materialistic, and that's, in my opinion, not necessarily the best way to go, but everybody's free to go however they want.
That's important,
but he's getting the message now. So I think he would be somebody that if we spoke to on the show could give us some advice on how to crack the matrix. We can give him some advice on how to journey a little bit deeper and really come to some realizations, and we put our heads together and figure out how to really change things. I can tell you this though, hacking the matrix, the first step is realizing that it's not real. The second step is changing your vibration. You've got to vibrate at a certain frequency. DMT, ayahuasca really helps you vibrate at that frequency. I find myself, when I haven't done ceremony for an extended period of time, my frequency level starts to get lower and it starts to vibrate back at the same resonance as the matrix does. And then I get sucked into the matrix and I start believing that this matrix is real when it's not. And then I elevate myself again. And the point is to stay in an elevated state, whether it's by doing ceremony on a regular basis or doing ceremony enough times to get to that point of being able to maintain that higher frequency. I ran into some brick wall where I thought that, well, there's nothing really more that ayahuasca can show me because I've pretty much seen everything. And it was just me, I guess, talking myself out of doing more experiences for one reason or another, because I've had probably 100 experiences.
Yeah, at least.
I mean, somebody asked me the other day, how many experiences have you had? I said, I don't know, at least 100. And they were like, wow, that's incredible. And you start to break down these different barriers when you've had all these experiences. But a lot of people that don't do ayahuasca or have never done it or have done DMT or never done DMT, a lot of things that they'll say is, well, you should be able to achieve those states on your own. And quite possibly so. And I guess that's where I was at that point when I stopped doing the ceremony for an extended period of time. I thought I should be able to elevate myself and maintain that frequency on my own without having to use shamanic traditions. But shamanic traditions are there for a purpose, and I'm realizing that I'm not quite there yet. So we're going to continue to have these DMT chats from beyond the veil for a good period of time.
Well, because at this point, to me, it's like telling somebody to get to the moon on a bicycle. For the majority of humanity. I'm not saying, it's not possible. What I'm saying is you would have to be an extraordinary individual that has had years of meditative experience in order to get to that same level.
I don't think it's possible.
You don't think it's possible at all?
To be frank, no pun intended, Frank. To be frank, is that funny? To be frank, I think it's a bunch of bullshit. And we're going to get some of those comments like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing DMT and ayahuasca. You should get there with meditation. You don't even know where the hell we're going, first of all. Okay? I'm sorry, but you don't know where the fuck we're going. So you can't.
That's like saying you've been to Disneyland when you've gone to a backyard pool.
That's a good analogy, right? Yeah. And you're like, oh, I have Disneyland in my backyard. No, you have no fucking idea what Disneyland is, first of all. However, I'm not going to discount the idea that we can work with the plants and get to a point of maintaining the frequency. Mm-hmm. But then the question comes in, like, if you're maintaining a frequency, isn't the point to shift up and up and up and up and up and up and up as much as you can in this lifetime? So if you hit a certain frequency, even if it's an elevated frequency and you're maintaining that frequency, then I think that is not quite the right progression either, because then you're stuck and you're brick walling yourself once again.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're holding yourself back again. And it's this trick that the ego plays on itself, and it's almost a form of self-sabotage, because on the one hand, your higher self is trying to drag you up the ladder of being, while at the same time your ego is like, no, be comfortable, be comfortable, be comfortable. Why don't you just relax, enjoy yourself? Look at how far you've come. You used to be in the gutter doing, coke or whatever. Now look at you. Oh, you're so much better now than you were back then. There's no reason to continue going upward. And that it's almost like a self-sabotaging thing that a lot of people go through. And so that's why we're continuing to do DMT and to do ayahuasca and continuing to try to climb up that ladder of ascendance and of being and sharing our experiences with you.
I agree. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. You are your own worst enemy. I've become my own worst enemy by getting sucked into the matrix, believing that the bullshit that I was dealing with was somehow real, and not focusing on the spirit. We have three parts of our bodies, of our beings, that's a better way to put it, that we have to focus on. That's the mind, the body, and the spirit, or the soul. And if all three aren't aligned, then we're not working at maximum capacity. And what happens is you start to, if you're focused too much on your mind, then you're sitting there and reading all these books, and you're not philosophizing on what you're reading. You're just absorbing information, and that's it. So there's no spirit element to it there. there's no growth. You're just like a computer just sucking up information. And then your body also suffers too, because you're sitting there in front of books all day and not actually getting out and doing anything physical. Likewise, if you're just drinking ayahuasca all the time, then the rest of you is kind of suffering because you're not taking care of the physical reality stuff that you need to take care of, because we do have a physical body here, even though it's a simulation. Still feels pretty damn real, and that needs to be taken care of. And like in my case, I was looking great about a year ago, and I was drinking ayahuasca, I was getting exercise, I was researching, I had all three working perfect, and then I stopped, and I gained weight, and I'm back to I fell back into the 3D construct. So now is the point where, okay, so I understand it's nobody's perfect. Nobody is here claiming to be Jesus or anything like that. So I'll pick myself back up and I will move forward and get back on the path. And that's the beautiful part about this is it doesn't matter how many times you fall down. It really doesn't. You can fall down 1,000,000 times. As long as you pick yourself up every single time and you learn from the times that you fell down, it's all part of the journey and it's beautiful. Anyway it goes. So
well, it kind of reminds me of the Japanese culture where they will, if something breaks, that's something that's important to them, they don't throw it away. They use gold to put it back to gold and glue and mix it together and put it back together. And they consider those cracks as like it makes it even more valuable because it's had history. This has been through some stuff, some really horrible stuff. And the same thing with our soul. If you've been through some horrible things, then just as horrible as those things were, that is how high your consciousness is able to go.
That's true. Nathan and I did a song and we never released it. We did like 3 or 4 songs together and we never released them because I couldn't get the damn third verse together. I did the first one, Nathan did the second, I was supposed to do the third on like 3 tracks. It's a really shame. I should probably go back and revisit those.
Yeah, you should.
Anyways, in one of the songs that he did, he said, a sword isn't forged in a bed of feathers, it's forged in fire. And that's true. You got to go through the fire. And drinking ayahuasca makes you step into the fire. There's actually a documentary, I think,
Stepping into the fire.
Yeah. And it's true. You step into the fire and you become that sword. You become that warrior. You become whatever it is that you need to become if you want to take it to those next levels. With some people, they need the healing that comes with it. There's the woman from Hostel, Heather Matarazzo.
Great actress. Excellent.
She was in the second Hostel movie.
No, the third.
No, the second.
Oh, was it? Yeah, it was the second. Yeah.
She was in the second Hostel movie. And that was the one where they...
In 2007, yeah.
So that movie was very dark. All 3 Hostel movies, the first 2 more so. We talked about this because we got into the Pizzagate stuff very briefly, but realized it was just a dark fucking mess that I didn't want to mess with. But the film Hostel was based on a true story. Eli Roth, who was the writer behind Hostel, wanted to do a documentary on this website from the deep web where people were paying to go murder people. And they say on the website that people were paying, that people who were convicted of a crime, like murder and things like that, were the ones who were being killed, or people who were very sick, and some of the money was going to their families. But people were paying for the thrill of killing somebody. And he was going to go do this documentary and then realized at the last minute, hey, wait a minute, if I do this documentary on people that murder people, I'm probably going to wind up getting murdered too. Right. So him and Quentin Tarantino got together and made the film Hostel, which was, you got to see the film, especially if you're looking into the Pizzagate stuff, and keep an eye out for the art show. They mention it in the first one. They give you every single clue that you need as to what's going on. But I don't want to get too far into that. But anyways, she did this movie and her consciousness was just so deep and dark as a result of this movie, because the energies that she was tapping into along with the entire crew of Hostel are very real energies.
She said, I just can't deal with this anymore. And she said, I don't know if Hollywood left me or if I left Hollywood at that point, but I left.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
couldn't be
she
in that.
did some ayahuasca
Mhm.
and came to terms with some of the energies that we're dealing with in this artificial construct. So it's helping people on that level. So if you've got trauma, if you've got things like that, it helps you on that level. But if you want to take it to the next level, and very few actually can take it to the next level, or choose to take it to the next level, because it's not a matter of whether you can or can't. It's a matter of, will you
Mhm.
go to the next level?
Right.
Because you have to go through the fire first. Because the first few experiences, they're all fun and peace and love and all this stuff.
Or deep healing and
Right.
that kind of thing.
But then you get into the deeper parts of yourself and you have to tear
Mhm.
yourself down. And it's not until you are absolutely broken down and every single part of your darkness, every childhood
It's
trauma,
laid bare.
everything has been dealt with. Then they say, welcome. Now you can be reborn. Now we are going to rebuild you and you will rise from the dead and you will go out into the world and shine your light.
Right, right. And, you know, they're doing a study. I think it was UCLA that's doing a study right now on psychedelics and members of the clergy, everyone from Hindus to Buddhists to Pentecostals to evangelicals. They've included everyone, Catholic priests, everyone. And I think that that's a great idea because if these religions, you know, have a problem, then it should be brought to light by these studies, and these clergy will obviously go through something that compels them to either leave the religion or try to reform it in some way. On the other side of the coin, you know, there's going to be.
Well, they just need a good dose of the Holy Spirit.
There you go. That's what I believe. I believe in a thing called the Holy Spirit. I believe that that exists. I believe it's inside of each and every one of us, but it's only expressed when we are doing good for one another and when we are lit up like a Christmas tree and actually living in that higher frequency. I think that's the real spirit.
Could be. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that it's time to level up.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's time to level up. A lot of people are leveling up. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. So, is there anything else we should touch upon in this first edition of, is it DMT Insights from Beyond the Veil or Ayahuasca Insights? I think we should go with Ayahuasca Insights. Ayahuasca Insights from Beyond the Veil.
You think people will take it more seriously if
I
it's
don't
ayahuasca?
know.
I think so.
I don't care who the people that are going to take it seriously are the ones who need to hear it.
Yes, absolutely. And
everybody else, hey, it's not for you.
yeah, if it's not for you, it's not for you. But no, I think this is a great.
I stopped worrying what people think. I stopped trying to please other people. I'm like, you know what?
You gotta do
it.
that.
I'm gonna shine my lights. I'm gonna fly as high as I can. And if you don't like the shadows my wings cast, then step into the light.
Yep, step into the light.
All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Ayahuasca Insights from Beyond the Veil.
When time is but a loop, with a loose stitch in the universal cloth, seize upon the chance traveler and step beyond the veil.